Congressman C. Alonto Adjong, the chairman of House Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms. Another one is Congressman Lord Ansuan from the 1st Congressional District of Cagayan de Oro, chairman, Committee on Public Information, and one tahanan party list representative, Congressman Nathaniel Nat Odocado. Magandang tanghali po sa ating mga resource person. At sa mga kasama natin sa House Media, may request lamang po tayo for better recording and maayos pong takbo ng ating briefing. Paki-raise lamang po yung hands para ma-acknowledge para sa inyong mga question. Baka po may mga opening statement ang ating chairman, especially Congressman Adjong. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank our media friends for joining us in today's press briefing. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat at sa mga nakikinig pong mga kapatid nating Muslim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh and happy Ramadan to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just concluded the national public consultation on the proposed anti-political dynasty measures in Cavite, Cebu, and Cagayan de Oro. Across Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, we heard a wide range of perspectives from citizens, even netizens actually, local leaders, academic, civil society, and legal experts. The diversity of views reflects the complexity of the issue and the depth of public interest in getting this reform right. There is no single uniform position. Some advocate for stricter and broader prohibition, while others emphasize safeguards for the constitutional right to vote and to seek public office. Many raised important questions about degrees of relationship, levels of ban, and enforceability. These discussions underscore that the challenge before us is not a simple binary. Our responsibility now is to consolidate these varied inputs into a version that is principled, balanced, and enforceable. Any measure we advance must be able to withstand with rigorous debate in the plenary and ultimately survive judicial scrutiny. It must faithfully implement the constitutional mandate while respecting fundamental rights. Our goal at the committee level is to craft an agreeable, constitutionally sound anti-political dynasty law that can gather broad support in Congress and endure legal challenges. That is the standard we are working towards as we move to the next phase of deliberations. Maraming salamat po, and again, thank you very much for joining us today.
May other opening statement po ba sa two other resource person natin? Wala na. Okay, those who want to ask question, please raise your hand para masimulan natin. Sir, I understand na the Senate has already done plenary na rin sila sa anti-political dynasty measure. Dito po sa inyo, 24 measures, if I am not mistaken. Ano po ang nasa inyong komite? Ito ho ba'y na consolidate na at ano ba ang pinaka nakita ninyo dun po sa mga public consultations na do you think magiging very important sa gagawin ninyong batas?
Well, 24 versions nga, no? So we are now in the process of consolidating the substitute bill so that we can come up with the one unified bill that would be the subject of our committee report in next week, no? Next week po, hopefully. Nakita naman natin there's no question about anti-political dynasty kasi everyone agrees that there's already that in the Constitution. What we are now discussing is which degree of civil relationship should we actually implement, no, or introduce in the law. That would be the basis to provide legal definition of what constitute anti-political dynasty. Would it be second degree of civil consanguinity and affinity or fourth degree civil relationship, no, consanguinity and affinity? So basically yun po yung pag-aaralan natin. So far, of all the 24 versions, majority of the versions that we received, second degree yung pinopropose na prohibition, civil ban, no, prohibition relationship. And well, the rest, I think kung di ako nagkakamali, 16 or 17 bills that propose yung second degree prohibition. The rest are fourth degree. May basis naman din tayo. I think may existing law na rin tayo, and I've mentioned this many times over. Sa SK law, second degree, pati na rin yung sa BARM, Electoral Code, second degree. So, if we follow the dictation na democracy rules by numbers, mas majority yung nagpo-propose ng second degree civil relationship prohibition.
Regarding the degree of prohibition, my bill was actually proposing a fourth degree or 4 degrees. And it seems that it's not the most popular or even the most implementable version of the bill, considering that the COMELEC usually gets applications for or certificates of candidacies. They are filed in October and they have to print a ballot by December or January. And then if there's a problem with the anti-dynasty laws, for example, if someone claims that his relative is running and is within the fourth degree, it would be very difficult for COMELEC to determine, because we still need due process and hearing in determining the degree of relationship between candidates. So 4 degrees are going to be very difficult. And even though my bill was proposing for 4 degrees, I'm still open for 2 degrees na lang. Kasi ayaw din natin yung perfect bill na based sa personal preference natin, kaso hindi siya mapapasa. Because here when we make laws, it's not about personal preference, it's about collective agreement. And we have to enter these discussions with an open mind. After all, the aim of argument or of discussion should not be victory, but progress.
Just to add to that po, no, because very diverse po yung results ng ating consultation, maraming nagsasabi rin na naka-benefit sila because of the continuity and magandang pagpapalakad. We can't also disregard yung apprehensions na we want to broaden the opportunity of leadership into deserving future leaders. Nakita namin po na the approach should be balancing between people, allowing them to run for office, and at the same time, the electorate having the choice to vote who they want. So far, I think our group will agree that the best approach is ang House Bill 6771 ni Speaker Boji and Majority Leader Sandro Marcos, because it is congruent with the constitutional intent, but at the same time, it balances it with what is the political reality and what is necessary sa ground.
Just to add to what Congressman Nat mentioned, though, yung House Bill 6771, which is the version authored by Speaker Faustino Boji III and our Majority Leader, has the most number of co-authors. Mukhang 100 plus na ata sila na co-authors nitong batas na to. So kung titingnan po natin kung sino yung may suporta talaga at sino talaga yung may backing, itong House Bill 6771 na to.
Under House Bill 6771, sir, ano yung degree of relationship ang ina-allow doon? Second degree din.
So what's the question again?
Sir, under the House Bill 6771, second degree din
Second degree,
ang pinupush doon.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of experts are saying na weak po itong House Bill nila Speaker Boji D and ni Majority Leader Sandro Marcos. Are we pushing for a weak anti-political dynasty bill, sir?
I think it's not fair to label it weak because in the first place, there's no anti-political dynasty measure as of today that implements in the national level. We're talking of SK law, which is second degree, and the Bangsamoro Autonomous Government, which actually implements the second degree. So our basis is there are already existing policies, although it is not being implemented nationwide. So we don't have any point of reference to say at the very least that it is going to be a weak law. So titingnan natin what we are actually trying to achieve here is to have an anti-political dynasty that will be implementable.
Just to add to what Chair said, no, I understand the apprehension na they perceive it as that, but in reality, when you run the numbers, it will affect a lot of positions. Yesterday, I was in a discussion, and I think the measure was around, it will affect 70% for the city and municipality levels. We don't know yet how much will be affected sa Congress, which is largely very big din ang portion niya. And I think that's an indication that the law is not weak because it will cover a lot of positions. Second, on the principal level, we want to push sana na we shouldn't be too strict, but at the same time, we should acknowledge the request of our people that they have the right to vote who they want in office. So this is the best balance that we see so far, and this is the most reasonable in terms of the political climate.
At the end of the day, Marian, at the end of the day, it's the enforceability and implementability of this law that matters naman.
Also, I think that we do not have to amplify the extremes. We need to find a workable common ground. And I think this bill is the most workable of them all.
But sir, how are we going to convince other lawmakers? For example, si Kong Ege Erice, he previously stated that it's not an anti-political dynasty bill. Sabi po niya, it just legitimizes the existence of political dynasties. Paano kung mabigyan ng chance sa 5 bawat pamilya, 5 public officials, nasa yung chance ng ibang mamamayan na maging public official?
Unang-una, I think Congressman Irizo also proposes second degree. Yung version niya. So, second degree ang version ni, kung di ako nagkakamali. I was there during the committee hearing. He was actually convincing those who are among the guests who proposed the fourth degree. He was actually arguing the best is the second degree. So I don't know. I mean, ang akin as a chairman, once we reach the stage na we will deliver the committee report, I'm expecting it's going to be a lengthy debate. It will not be accepted as is by my colleagues. In fact, I would even rather invite questions from the floor. This is definitely something that all of us are very much invested in. So I would really expect a lengthy debate, questions, legal questions, and even inquiries. No, on how do we go about this? So this bill is actually what the Constitution wants us to do, and I don't actually worry myself too much on what would be the reaction of my colleagues here, because I would expect that there will be questions that would be asked during the plenary debate. That essentially is what democracy is all about.
Sorry, I just have to clarify kasi po yung initially before it's about yung local, no, mas kasi po parang pwede tumakbo basta kahit magkakaiba po kayo ng distrito. I think yun yung nandun sa bill nila Kong Sandro and Speaker Boji D. So yun yung ibig sabihin na legitimize po ang political dynasties sa local.
No, actually, it's not really about that. It's actually balancing it out, because we cannot really penalize the entire family simply because they share the same DNA and they cannot be allowed, for example, to serve different localities in different positions all at the same time. But we have to limit, because the issue now is the concentration of power. But that's essentially is what political dynasty is about. We want to level off the playing ground so that other participants can actually join. But it is also an issue of campaign financing capacity of each of the candidates. Because if you're actually wanting to make sure that there would be a wider space for other participants to enter into political race, then that would only also goes. The question also goes down to not only about being in proximity with the political family, but can a candidate has the capacity to actually win? And you're talking about resources. So it's not really an issue of anti-political dynasty alone. If you want to widen the space for electoral process for others participants to join in, it's also something about making sure that the leveling field is equal in terms of resources, equal. So we also go back to the issue of campaign financing. But at the same time, we also need to balance it out, because others who may also be part of a different locality, you cannot automatically suspend, for example, their willingness to participate in a civic process where they want to present themselves to the electorate and be part of public service. So what we are trying to do is we want to limit, for example, yung sinasabi nilang concentration of power. And so I think one candidate for each family, it's too extreme for me, and that's what basically what the law in the BARM electoral code is about. No, it's too extreme. If we simply just allow only one from each of the family from all of the positions available for you know for concerned citizens to even exercise their civic duty of running for an office. So I think yun ang gusto natin din ma-balance, no, na hindi magiging penalty na ito. Kumbaga parang penalty na sa isang pamilya dahil nasa politika yung isa sa kanila, lahat na lang pinagbawal natin in all localities. I mean, let's also be reasonable. There are others who also would want to serve the country, no? Ang iniiwasan lang natin in one locality, in one LGU, may concentration of power, 'di ba? Ganun lang naman 'yun eh. And I think that's the intention of the bill. It is not only legal but it is also practical and reasonable.
Okay, next.
Just to add lang,
Okay.
sorry. I think that specific provision will still be deliberated on. Kasi during the debates, we will see na the discussion on does it really affect the balance or checks and balances? Does it really increase personal interest, etc.? So that provision will be tackled pa. So no need to worry, but we understand the concern.
Tsaka it goes to
And if the concentration of power is dispersed among a more expansive geographical area, I think the problems that we are trying to avoid with political dynasties might be mitigated.
Okay. Next question is
Hello.
Janes Kapanti.
Ay,
Go ahead,
sir.
GMA.
Sir, good afternoon po. Dun sa Cebu, Cebu consultations, Vice Mayor Tommy Osmeña mentioned about allowing members of the family, same family kahit second, third, or fourth degree, allowing them to run at the same time but for the same position para daw ma-expedite. Parang sila yung maglaban-laban. Is that something that you're considering? Para yun nga, parang mas di lahat kayo tatakbo, walang choice. Kasi talagang andun pa rin yung right ng citizens to vote whoever, kung sino gusto nila. Regardless kung anong apelyido o kung sino yan.
But that's
May matatanggal talaga eh. Kasi kung same position. Is that something that is on the table?
That's a possible occurrence that might happen in election. Actually, it happens eh. In every elections, magkakapatid, magkakalaban, di ba? Hindi mo naman maiwasan yon. But I think if you are asking us, if we are to place that in the law, in the proposed bill, that is something that we cannot, ang gagawin kasi namin sa bill is there will be elbow room for COMELEC to also adjust in how they will come up with their IRR. So these are the things that happen, and these are the things that might happen also in future elections. So possible talaga na mangyayari yun. Ngayon, ang issue niyan ngayon is would it be cancellation of kasi within second degree, provided for example that we adopt the second degree civil relationship prohibition, halimbawa. So, would that be, for example, kung sinong walang tumakbong mayor, tas sabay-sabay silang tumatakbong mayor na magkalaban sila, what would be now the treatment of all these candidates since they are within the second degree prohibition? Ika-cancel ba yung nila? Ika-cancel ba yung candidacy nila? Or i-disqualify, no? So, ang mangyayari dyan, practicality would dictate that isa lang yung mananalo sa kanila, di ba? So what the law is, what the proposed law is intends to implement really is one holder in each family in every locality. So ibig sabihin, kung isa lang mananalo sa kanila, I don't see any reason why they should be disqualified if they're running against each other. Kasi ang iniiwasan naman natin is concentration of power from in every family. So they can run as many as they want, but there will be one winner. Yun ang issue doon. Thank you.
Next natin is Gab. Go ahead, Gab.
Sir, meron na po ba tayong timetable regarding dun sa kung kailan maipapasa ng committee, kailan mapupunta sa plenary?
Wala. What I can tell you is itong under yung process po ng consolidation at next week na magkakaroon na tayo ng committee adoption. So due na siya for I think for next week ata for plenary debate. Thank you.
Sir, Just another question. Medyo curious lang ako paano yung magiging application nung bill for officials na from the same family pero ruling in different areas. For example, ang top of mind na naisip ko, kaso nila Congresswoman Mika Swansing, na yung kapatid siya nasa Nueva Ecija, yung kapatid niya nasa Sultan Kudarat, if I'm not mistaken. So, would that limitation apply na parang dalawa lang sa national, tas merong sa local?
Let's see, that it's actually part of the discussion that we will be holding for the last and final committee hearing prior to the adoption of the consolidated version, yung substitute bill. So isa yan sa pag-uusapan, no? Kasi within second degree na yun eh. So anong mangyayari doon? And I think they're both running for the same office. But let's see kung ano yung pag-uusapan doon. But definitely that would be part of the discussion.
I think most of the bills mention about the disqualification of two candidates who are members of the same dynasty. If they're running for a national position, for example, Congress, isa lang yung pwedeng manalo. Tapos iba naman sa local. So we still have to decide kung pwede ba yung dalawang tumakbo pero sa magkaibang lugar, or isa lang talaga ang pwede kahit sa magkaibang lugar. That's still one of the topics that we have to discuss deeply.
Next question natin is from Vivian. Go ahead.
Good morning. Hi, good morning, Kongs. Sir, accurate ba to say na at the moment parang yung version na ng House leadership yung magiging final version nitong bill?
That is safe to assume. Yeah.
And under that version, kasi merong mga concerns that fat dynasties can still exist under that version of the anti-dynasty bill. Is this observation accurate? Can fat dynasties still exist under that version of the bill?
Actually, that's exactly what we are trying, this bill. Sorry. Doon ka kasi next time. Well, that's exactly what this version of the bill intends to go directly and address the issue, yung concentration of power. That's why it only limits yung family members without necessarily also penalizing a family, the entire clan. Those who are actually willing to enter into public service from barging forever, no? To enter into public service. So ganun yung ginagawa. What is important now, I think, Vivian, is that we recognize that there shouldn't be any concentration of power.
But yeah.
Yes.
Kasi sir, di ba, under the definition, fat dynasties, multiple members of one family holding government offices sabay-sabay simultaneously. Is this still possible under this bill?
Well, it is basically, Vivian, the recognition that there are localities that have different constituencies. Yeah, under this bill, it can also happen because it does not also preclude others from running. Sabi nga kanina ni Congressman Lordan, that one locality in Cagayan de Oro is also different from other locality. For example, in Marawi City or in Iligan City, di ba? So it actually bridges the gap between what is essentially is anti-political dynasty and what actually is the right of one to actually join public service through electoral process. So the concentration of power is if, for example, there's already the breach between between check and balances of two different departments. For example, if the husband is mayor and the wife is vice mayor, that actually violates yung check and balances and the concentration of powers. And fat dynasty is actually relative because there are fat dynasties in one locality. In asawa, anak, tatay sa isang locality. So yun ang tinatry natin i-address under this version to decongest one locality from the control of one political family.
And just to add, before you continue, expect a very comprehensive debate on the matter kasi a lot of people who filed the bills filed up until the fourth degree and prevents fat dynasty situations. So it's now a process of like convincing your members to agree to you. It's part of our duty as people who advocate for certain stands. So expect na hindi lang siya madali and maraming maglalobby rin na dapat fourth degree just to prevent this from happening. So after that, we will now determine if kung ma-convince ang ibang members. Pero like for me, for instance, I also want up until fourth degree kasi that will really create a lot of impact, especially for uprising leaders. And we want to argue that and we want to try to convince other members to have the same position.
At saka, Vivian, actually, the very goal of this process, the goal of this anti-political dynasty is to pass an anti-political dynasty that is legally sound and can be that is implementable. No? It is not really to win an argument. There will be others who are actually proposing a different version, a different one, a much stricter version. What we intend in the committee is for us to arrive in an agreeable position where there's on anti-political dynasty for now, di ba? Kasi una-una pa lang ito nationwide. And there will also be the issue of enforceability and practicability of the law. So it's not so much about winning the argument, ours is better than yours. It's actually coming up with an actual piece of legislation that would become a law that would be implemented in the coming election seasons.
So even though the most commonly agreeable bill might provide the possibility of a fat dynasty, it doesn't mean that if there is a fat dynasty, there is immediately, or it would be inevitable that the evils that we are trying to avoid will be there. For example, if there is no concentration of power in the same locality, kasi isa lang talaga yung pwede sa kanila, then the evils that we are trying to avoid with the dynasties will no longer be there. So, and I think that is the main purpose of this anti-dynasty bill. So kung wala na yung problema, so wala na yung, for example, yung mga masama sa dynasty, yung mga evil effects of dynasties, then even if there might be a fat dynasty, if it's an ineffective fat dynasty, then I think that would be a more agreeable middle ground. Because after all, we must remember that we need to find a working bill. We need to find a bill that is acceptable to all that will actually pass. Kasi kung gusto talaga natin yung pinaka-extreme, baka wala tayong bill talaga. Wala talagang law na maipapasa. We have to reconcile constitutional intent with the realities on the ground and political realities.
Next question is from Rose of UNTV.
Ay sir, isa rin po ba sa target niyo pong maging significant point nito na before 2028 elections maipasa yung bill or maipatupad na bago pa po yung presidential elections?
But titingnan natin, no? Kasi ako, if you ask me, what we want is to have it implemented national in all not only local positions but even national positions. But it has also remembered that there are siblings in the Senate who are currently serving at the same time. So titingnan natin kung paano siya ma-implement, no? Would it be right away in the next election in 2028 or would it be implemented in 2031? Because meron namang transitional provisions na ginagamit tayo May mga issues, may mga inaalala naman talaga na may transitional provisions. Even the Constitution has that one. So let's see kung how it would fit, because definitely we do not want also to violate the mandate of those who are currently sitting now in the serving in the government na same pareho na pamilya at magkakapatid or magkakaanak. So let's see kung paano yung implementation nito. What we are now focused on is how to cross this over to the final stage, which is the plenary and then later on the voting for the final reading.
Ay, na-mention na rin nyo po before na hindi maiiwasan under the version of the bill ng anti-political dynasty bill na susuportahan ng maraming kongresista, yun pong fat dynasty. So how do we assure the public na hindi po watered down o malabnaw na version yung ipapasa nyo, since yung mga members ng political dynasty ay pwede pa rin tumakbo ng sabay-sabay, magkakaiba lang ng lugar?
let's tingnan na natin na hindi lahat sabay-sabay. Wala naman lang talakbong lahat sabay-sabay yan, di ba? Meron lang talagang areas na magkakaiba talaga ng constituency yung sinasabi. Hindi pare-pareho ng constituency, di ba? So that's number one that we need to also remember under this House Bill 6771. What we can assure the public is meron anti-political dynasty, there will be decongestion of the power controlled by one family. It will be spread over. Hindi siya yung magkakamaanak yung mayor, yung vice mayor at the same time, no? Na tumatakbo at the same time. So there will be hindi matatanggal po yung concentration of power, which is basically what according to many studies is actually the source of why there are dynasties in the first place, fat, obese, and etc. No? So yun po yung tinatanggal natin and ina-address natin under this bill, under this law.
So, sir, yung halimbawa magkamag-anak na kung pwede silang sabay na tumakbo, magkaiba lang ng distrito.
Titingnan natin because there are proposals among the 24, kaya may consolidation process tayo eh. We just want to make the House Bill 6771 as a working draft. Kasi in terms of the procedure would suggest na in terms of support, it has more than 100 plus, I think umabot ata ng 100 yung co-authorship nito. So in terms of numbers and procedural wise, yung version na pinakamarami at pinakamaraming support, yun talaga yung magiging working draft natin. Because essentially, you would have to have, for a bill to be able to pass the third reading, you have to have numbers, di ba? That's practicality is the essence of why we're having all this conversation, because at the end of the day, it will be voted upon by the members. So those versions or a version that has secured the most number of support will be our working draft. So in this case, House Bill 6771. So yun ang titingnan natin. So other proposals from other versions would also be incorporated and will also be debated upon and discussed in the committee before we can actually consolidate, no? Kasi ang process niyan, Rose, is yung consolidation kasi babasahin talaga and then each member talagang mag-uusap, magdidebate, mag-argue, and then pagbubutuhan ng committee. So whatever is the form and substance of this substitute bill, I will tell you, it will be voted upon by the majority of the members.
Ibig sabihin po ba nito, sir, since most likely yung version po ni Speaker at ni Majo yung susuportahan ng marami, off the table na po yung suggestion ng isang constitutional framer na isang national, isang local ang sinasuggest nilang tumakbo?
Actually, hindi rin sila nag-agree ng mga constitutional framers. Eh. May nagsasabing fourth degree, may nagsasabi ding second degree, may nagsasabi isa lang. Even them, if you go back to the transcript of the CONCON discussion, 18 ang votes. 17 against the inclusion of anti-political dynasty phrase in the Constitution and 18 voted in favor. So ibig sabihin isa lang, tiebreaker, isa. And despite that, they were not able to actually resolve the issue. Kaya tinapon na lang sa Congress, nilagyan na lang na nilagay na lang ng na prohibits anti-dynasty as may be defined by law, because they themselves agreed during the hearing. Even former Chairman Christian Mosod actually said that this is exactly the same discussions that we had 40 years ago because we could not resolve ourselves. That's why they passed it on to Congress for us to provide a legal definition of what constitutes anti-political dynasty. Even themselves, hindi rin sila nagkakaisa-isa. So I would expect talaga na magkakaroon ng discussion ito in the committee and even sa plenary.
Pero can we say na malabo yun? Kasi hindi nga po yun implementable.
What do you mean?
Malabo yung isa lang yung national, isa lang yung local, sabay. From same political family, political dynasty.
Well, kailangan din natin i-balance yung karapatan ng bawat tao na magserbisyo. I mean, that's essentially is that, di ba? So, titingnan natin kung paano natin to mapag-usapan. But definitely, this will be put on the table. It will be voted upon by the committee members. No? Ang akin lang is how really to balance it out. Kaya sabi nga namin, this discussion about anti-political dynasty is not actually to gain scores over the other, like we are winning the argument. This is not about winning the argument. This is actually coming up with a measure that is not only legally pliant but constitutionally sound. that it would also respect individuals' right to exercise, perform its civic duty to join public service.
Okay, next question natin is from Joman Lapas, to be followed by Ms. Tina of GMA, Billy, Vegas, Haji, and the PTB. Go ahead, John.
Paglilinaw lang po, Congressman. Kung sakasakali po yung sa national, yung isang senador, existing siya, tapos may isang kapatid niya tatakbo sa pagka-senador, bawal din ba yan?
Well, let's assume na mayroon ng batas. Kung mayroon ng batas talaga na gano'n, pagbabawalan na talaga yon. Kung mayroon natin political lines. These are just, we still have to adopt the substitute bill. We're just discussing here the possibility of what's going to be the final version from the committee. So if there will be a law that says that within second degree of consanguinity and affinity ay bawal to run in one, let's say, that is a national position, di bawal na po. Ganun lang kasimple yun po.
Kung sakaling tatakbo ng presidente, bawal na rin yung mga
I
kapatid
think
niya
the
sa
national is na-describe naman ng national position as president, vice president, senators eh. May nagsasabi it's even the House of Representatives can also be considered as national office, but ang argument naman ng COMELEC is they are voted locally by district, so they are still a local position. So yes, if it's under the national positions, vice president, president, and senators, what we intend to have is there will be no siblings within second degree of consanguinity and affinity, magkasawa, magkapatid, anak, natatakbo at the same time. Actually, it also goes to the issue there, no? So, paano pag magkalaban, di ba? So I think the issue is in the Senate is marami kasi na position na pwedeng manalo, hindi lang isa. So that applies now, the prohibition of second degree of consanguinity and affinity.
Isa na lang po. Sa counterpart niyo po sa Senate, nakaraan, Congressman Sian, sabi ninyo, possibly habulin niyo sa SONA itong anti-political dynasty bill. May usapan na po ba ang Senate, ang Congress para maging batas na siya before SONA o maisabi na ng Pangulo?
Initially po, mayroon po kaming correspondence ni Senator Risa Ontiveros, being the chairperson of the committee. Pero pinagdiskasan na po namin doon yung scheduling po nila nung public hearing, pati yung schedule din po natin sa House of Representatives. From then on, hindi na po kami nagkaroon ng exchanges. But I think ang mga secretariat po ay nagkakaroon ng correspondence patungkol doon sa anong version meron sila sa Senate. It's more on information kung paano nag-course through yung kanilang process sa Senado. Yun po yung aming discussion. Sa palagay ko, given the fact that we still have how many weeks to go before the break, mukhang in the committee, that I can assure you, papasa po. Magkakaroon po tayo ng consolidated version, substitute bill. Hopefully our plan really in that the timeline is that makaya natin sa plenary before the Lenten break. Pero as indicated by the questions of our media friends na marami talagang ginagagaling din sa mga posisyon ng ating mga kasamahan dito sa Kongreso, mukhang mahaba-haba yung debate.
Okay, next is Ma'am Tina. Go ahead.
Sir, dun sa issue ng party list groups, how do you consider them? Are they local or are they national? And dun sa prohibition ba, bawal among the 5 nominees na may magkakamag-anak? And paano yung, kunyari, may party list, tapos may kamag-anak na tatakbong senator or president, VP, or meron ding kamag-anak sa local?
Actually, yung sa yung sa party list reform bill, hindi pa po natin discussionan, hindi pa po natin natatakel sa committee. All the part po siya ng LEDAC priorities. Ang inuna po natin dito is yung consideration ng kandidato within second degree. Kasi yung kandidato po na allowed to run for a position. Yung sa party list, kung tatanungin niyo po ako, based doon sa explanation ng Commission on Elections, yung party list would also be can also be considered as a national position because they're voted upon nationally. So their constituency is national. Alam ko ang sabi nga ni Chairman George Garcia, kung titingnan natin during the campaign period, nauuna ang national positions, ang kampanya nila. Ibig sabihin ng presidente, vice president, senador. Kasama na din po diyan yung party list candidates, no? So ibig sabihin, if you ask me, that they will be part of the national office, no, ang party list. So titingnan po natin kasi that would be a separate issue when it comes to the Reform Party List Act, which will be tackled. We will take it up probably after this anti-political dicing. That's going to be the next piece of legislation that will be discussed by the committee.
Just to add lang kay Chair, no, I agree na dapat national position siya. But as to the nominee positions, I think it should also cover in the sense that we have to bring back para saan ba talaga yung party list. For me, it should always be about two representation. And we can't get good political reforms if hindi natin i-push na dapat totoong representative siya ng that specific sector.
Actually, Ma'am Tina, isa yan sa mga proposals na mayroon ding ma-introduce din na mayroon din siyang semblance of an anti-political dynasty in order for one family not to control party list organization. Isa yun sa mga proposal pa naman. So titingnan po natin as we move along with all these two LEDAC priorities kasi dalawa po yung priority, tatlo under my committee na declared as LEDAC priority. Ito nga anti-political dynasty, yung sa BARM elections, and ito po yung Reform Party List Act.
Okay, next natin is Billy.
Well, mukhang magiging pareho po yung natin kasi yung majority nga nung versions dito at saka working draft po natin gagamitin natin is yung pinakamaraming support, which is House Bill number 6771. So it would be easier for the BICAM. For example, if we reach that stage, it will be a lot easier for the BICAM to resolve some conflicting sections between our version and that of the Senate. What is important really is yung degree. Diyan talaga yung usapin Ano ba, fourth or second degree. So it would make our work a lot easier once we sit down in the BICAM.
Okay, last three tayo. Haji.
So having said that, in-expect po ninyo na since baka sa BICAM din pa po magkakaproblema, yung timeline po or yung timetable na nais po ninyo na before SONA ng President ay makapag-report na po siya on the anti-dynasty bill.
Unang-una, wala namang BICAM na hindi nagka-problema Kasi compromise talaga yan magre-reconcile yan. Let's see if the versions, if the two versions have substantial differences, then definitely it would take a while. But I think the Senate also is willing to adopt and approve the version prior to the SONA. So at least on that aspect, we are on the same level. So we are conscious about the presidents wanting this. I think the leadership wanting this to be part of the SONA.
For me,
Well, that's ultimately is the end goal Kasi either way, if you adopt the version of the Senate or the other way around, for example, if one section under our version would be more agreeable to their version and would be adopted by the Senate, the same thing, it would still be ratified. So yun lang naman talaga i-reconcile mo yung dalawang version. Ano ba yung major differences in conflicting sections dyan? But yung sabi ko nga, at least on the basic question, which actually gathers more debate and arguments, is actually the degree of consanguinity. In this case, the Senate and the House would probably come up with the same understanding and same version and same legal definition, which is the second degree. So it would make our job a lot easier and faster for the BICAM to come up with the BICAM report.
May nakakausap po kayo sa
On a PCFI level, wala pa. On an individual level, syempre, kaibigan ko na rin sila. Tapos, I can't deny na sobrang maganda ang plano nila. So, I express my opinion sa kanila. So, there are discussions. I mean, some will not agree. Some will agree. So, we'll see na lang once this bill is laid for debates and when the Party List Reform Act is up for the table na discussion.
What I can add also to that is that, di ba meron ng ruling ang Supreme Court regarding the participants for party list, even the nominees, kung who would be the nominee. There's already the ruling of the Supreme Court. If once we tackle the Reform Party List Act, definitely we will also be conscious about the rulings of the Supreme Court. Kaya titingnan natin kung how do we can balance it out. Thank you.
question po kay from Lord and
I think I was the one who passed the most extreme version of the bill. I only want one per family. Kahit anong location, kahit anong position. Tapos fourth degree of consanguinity and affinity. Mainly because I do not come from a political dynasty. Ako po yung una sa family namin. And yes, I have a brother who's a city councilor. Pero bago lang talaga kami sa politics, so it's not a big loss for us. I will still vote yes if the body agrees that 2 degrees is the most appropriate one. Because again, we have to enter into these debates with an open mind. Hindi pwede na mag-insist tayo sa gusto natin. Kahit ako, gusto ko talaga yung isa lang per family sa buong Pilipinas. Tapos 4th degree. Pero kung mag-i-insist ako ng ganyan tapos hindi naman mapapasa yung bill, walang mangyayari. I think it's better that we choose a bill that will give us some progress. Kahit konting progress, it's better than 4 decades of nothingness. Mas okay na yun kaysa sa wala. Pero let me just say na gusto ko talaga isa lang per family, tapos 4 degrees.
Okay, next natin is Bell of PTV.
Okay, since ang idiiwasan lang naman po natin is the fat dynasty, so does it mean na we are allowing yung succession, for example, natapos sa yung termino ng mayor, tapos yung asawa naman niya, yung susunod na tatakbo at mauupo, since isa lang naman yung mauupo doon sa probinsya nila?
Ayan sa mga proposals, no, sabi ko nga, we still have to adopt the consolidated bill. I will present to you, I'll give you a straight answer based on the consolidated bill once we do adopt the substitute bill. Sa ngayon, isa yan sa pag-uusapan. Isa yan sa mga proposals. May mga versions din na wala yung ganung proposal. So let's see kung succession, simultaneous, prohibition, may implement natin in the consolidated bill. But I think that is one of the main arguments that came out during our public consultation. Would that be, would the succession also be banned, or would we only content with the simultaneous holding of public office? So those are the things that we need also to come up with as in the committee consolidated bill. Thank you.
But based on the public consultation,
Based on
ano
the
po
public
yung...
consultation, it's a diverse. May nagsasabi, it's not only about ang na-experience po natin doon. Like for example, when we were in Cavite, definitely they were not actually concerned about political dynasty. In fact, they want the status quo kasi feeling nila yung services doon sa Cavite ay very progressive sa kanila. So iba yung tono ng Cavite. When we went to Cebu, ang Cavite, ang concern talaga nila is yung good governance. Sabi nga nila, good governance and bad governance and political dynasty are two different things. They're mutually exclusive. May mga bagay, sabi nila, na maganda yung patakbo ng isang pamilya. May mga ibang lugar na hindi maganda yung patakbo nila. But in Cavite, in Carmona City, maganda. So, makita mo yung position nila na good, mas doon sila dun ang gusto nila is mag-focus daw sa mga yung mga transparency and accountability measures ang pailarin, ang patakbuhin para maiwasan daw yung ma-address yung corruption. When we went to Cebu, the issue there in Cebu is education because they think that because of anti-political dynasty, nawawalan ng reason, nawawalan ng attention ang edukasyon sa kanila. So iba naman yung kanilang position doon. Iba na naman understanding nila sa Cebu. It's more on to spread out resources and to prioritize education. When we went to Mindanao, it's more about also about peace and order. So if you go through the arguments that we heard throughout this public consultation, there's no actual singular na definition and character that would give us an idea na ito yung common na political dynasty other than civil consanguinity. Yung talaga yung pinaka-concern nila. Others are saying, no, we don't, actually pwede lang sa amin basta hindi mag-concentrate yung power. That's the singular common argument that we heard. There shouldn't be any concentration of power exercised by one family in a particular locality. So yun po yung talaga yung concern. But yung sinasabi mo, would it be succession? This came out during the public hearing. And this will be one of the things that we will be discussing in the final committee hearing, which actually is the day that we will adopt the consolidated version or the substitute bill. Gusto mo na magsalita na, sige na.
Nagugutom na daw, Chair. Just to add sa sinabi ni Chair, no? Apart from those consultations, we're still receiving position papers about the topic. So marami pa kaming titignan na variables kung ano ba talaga yung final number. But more importantly, just to put to life yung numbers, I think it was the Pulse Asia survey na 54% overall, 69% ang NCR or Manila. Ang Cebu was 59, Visayas was 59%, but surprisingly, Mindanao is 34% ang agree, with 38% undecided. So these things are the things that we will consider as a committee, and we will deliberate pa kung ano makita namin sa position papers. So malalaman talaga natin, not just because of the numbers who are in favor, but also the constitutional and practical effect of the bill. So expect those things to come out during the deliberations.
Ano po kaya yung mga possible na maging epekto nitong panukalang batas doon sa nitong Kamara sa proseso, magiging desisyon and action ng Senado?
Magkaiba pong chamber tayo, so wala pong hindi po natin alam kung ano magiging epekto. Definitely magsi-sit down po ang Kamara at saka Senado para doon po sa bicameral conference. Nang sa ganon ay magkaroon po ng bicameral report. So yun lang po yung magiging as to the effect, magkaiba po yung two chambers. We respect each other's independence. So there's such thing as interparliamentary courtesy. Whatever is the result of their public consultation or the version, that would be respected by this House.
Okay. But Billy? Sige. Pwede daw. Go ahead.
Comment lang sa impeachment.
Go ahead, BB.
Expectations sa discussions, deliberations next week, expected yung deliberations ng House Justice Committee nitong impeachment complaints against the Vice President.
We cannot preempt the outcome of the deliberations on the Justice Committee, but we can be sure that we will have a thorough, fair deliberation on all of the issues. But as of now, we cannot preempt it.
I think just to add, we have to take a backseat from over-politicizing everything. This is actually a constitutional process. And as we can see naman, the tone of the House has always been objective in spite of whatever is being thrown at us. And for sure you will see, although I'm not part of the Justice Committee, from the previous discussions dun sa impeachment na nauna, nakita naman natin na nung diniscuss ng current Justice Committee, napaka-deliberate siya, napaka-comprehensive, and no holds bar in terms of unfolding what really happened. So we expect the same tone in the coming committee hearings, and I'm very excited to see kung anong kalalabasan nito from the committee members.
Well, what I can tell you, Vivian, is it will be taken up expeditiously kasi that's what the ruling of the Supreme Court eh. It has to be taken up within 10 session days. So yun ang gagawin ng committee. So there are 4 separate complaints and the committee will, it's already been transmitted to the office of the speaker, I guess, no? It's already been transmitted to the office of the speaker. What I can tell you is the Justice Committee, I'm sure Congress Chair Jinky would be able to discuss this with you. The Justice Committee is now geared towards the scheduling of the holding of the committee hearings. Same thing, I think pagdidiskussan yung form and substance, no? Bago yung actual committee deliberation.
Let's end this forum. Maraming salamat po muli, Congressman Z. Alonto Adyong, Congressman Lord Azuan, and Congressman Nat Oducado. Thank you very much po.